All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you so much for joining me on the show. Truly, I am just not going to stop by starting that way because I truly appreciate you all tuning in, really, from my heart to yours. Thank you. Now, Spirit wanted me to talk about blessings in disguise today. And I thought that was a pretty interesting topic because I was like, okay, so, where are we going with that? And they said, the idea of blessings in disguise is about not prejudging the current set of circumstances that you're in. There are times when we are kind of like stuck in a stagnant energy, and sometimes that is a result of a collective thing going on. The collective of humanity is kind of holding things back for your personal journey. Other times, your personal journey is being held back for reasons. Say you are connecting with somebody else, but you have to wait for them to get to the place in which they are ready to pair with you or create something with you or something like that. But when we find we are at a crossroads energetically where we are meeting this like barrier to no matter what we try to create, no matter what we try to do to make it move forward, all that kind of stuff, if we're hitting a point where it's kind of like there's a limitation to what we can do, and we have to just kind of stop and sit back for a sec, there is a blessing in that moment. Because if when you tune into that energy and you find that you are not you're not feeling the pull to reroute, like sometimes we can tune in and be like, this is not working, I need to do something totally different, but you feel that from a place of calm, that's having you reroute to a better path. But there's other times, in the times when we're meant to wait, where if you tune in, it's kind of like, not yet. And what's happening is exactly what I was saying, is there are different pieces that need to come into play to your journey, but you may have arrived at that point of launch, that point of shift first. You might have been basically the first one to the party. And really, before you can get the party going, you got to wait for everybody else to get there. So it's kind of like that in those moments where you reach a point and you're like, nothing else is moving. Wait for the universe to catch up, because the universe may very well be bringing in those particular people to help you bring this to the next level. And when you recognize that and you're in that place of waiting, you can find bounty in it, because in a sense, what it's telling you is it's like, you've done enough, you can take a break. What would you like to do for a little bit instead? You have some downtime. And I think oftentimes we forget about the value of downtime, like true downtime. We have this fear of not producing enough, not doing enough, not being enough, not becoming enough. Sometimes even not growing enough. Like we get so focused on growing and evolving and changing and all this, we forget about the value of the downtime, because the downtime equals playtime, and playtime equals joy. Joy is a higher vibration. That higher vibration helps us ascend to a higher timeline, a higher trajectory, a higher outcome. So it all really plays into a part. So when you find yourself in a moment where you're blocked, that is a blessing in disguise, especially when it's kind of like that blocked and waiting. Now, the second one, when you're blocked and you're being rerouted, you know how those times where you're trying to make something happen, but something keeps pulling you to a different direction over and over and over and over, different direction, right? A different option. It's giving you that different option because it's most likely in your highest interest to veer into that lane. The lane that you're currently in is not going to give you the highest benefit, and the universe is rerouting you. So sometimes in that position, the blessing in disguise is when something is kind of going against the grain of what we're wanting, and we're having to, in that moment, surrender our perspective and be willing to embrace and try on a new perspective. Because that new perspective might just be the outlet that helps us enter into this huge, different change of almost like seeing the world in like Technicolor. Is it Technicolor? I'm going to just use that. Technicolor. Maybe our view before was seeing it in, maybe only like 5 different colors. But if we change lanes and we're willing to surrender, all of a sudden we blink and we're like, wow, look at all of the available color now that I've allowed myself to see this view. Again, that rerouting and that ability that's just not letting you create what you wanted was really a blessing in disguise because it brought you to this other path. Now, the really tough ones is the blessing in disguise that comes when everything falls apart. So we're not just being kind of held back to just wait, and we're not being rerouted, but everything falls apart. It's like the tower card, right? Everything crumbles. The things you're working on, say the business you're trying to create just crumbles, or the relationship you're trying to have or sustain completely blows up, or anything in your path that just implodes, explodes, falls apart. That is a complete start over, renewal, go back to square one. And the way that they always show this to me whenever I see this come up in readings or for myself is when it's that kind of blessing in disguise. They're saying, listen, there's no point in continuing to build from this point because the foundation is shaky. It's a shaky foundation. And the higher you try to build this metaphorical structure, the more it's going to topple at some point. So you may as well crumble, start fresh from here versus building something as high as you can, because the higher you build it, the greater it's going to topple over and the more it'll affect as it falls down. So when something in your life gets completely obliterated, it usually is so that you can start fresh. There is something within that mix that is not in your highest alignment. And so it's just going to be wiped out, new canvas. But the thing is we often get so caught up in the heavy energies that come with crumblings like that, right? Like we get caught up in it. We take it very personally versus taking it as something that's happening and how can we look at it differently and move with it. Now, I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do because I've been there in different crumblings in my own life, whether it be health or anything. And it is not an easy place to be. But what I can say is from being on the other side of those things, I can see the value and the blessing in disguise of that crumbling. Let's just take my NDE, for example. My NDE opened me up to huge understandings, 100% knowing of the other side, even though I was a medium before, and I would have said at that point, I already knew, was already believing, confident. But having my NDE, my near-death experience, that no one could ever convince me that that did not happen, that that wasn't real. It is so viscerally real, as real to me as it was knowing I grew my children in my body and birthed them. Like you can't tell me I did not, right? It's that real to me. Had I not been as sick as I was for as many years, I wouldn't have gotten to that experience. Had I also not been as sick as I was and limited as I was, I would not have the capacity and the respect and the love of being able to move my body through fitness as I do now. Because I remember what it was like to do one bicep curl and have my muscles cramp up because I did not have enough oxygen in my body and feel like absolute garbage from literally one bicep curl. And I would do one curl, my muscles would cramp and I would just cry and I was exhausted. And I thought, man, what is my problem? I am the worst person. I am a failure. I am weak, is what I would tell myself, until I was realizing what was actually happening was that I had no ability to bring oxygen around my body into my muscles. And that's why movement hurt, let alone breathing, right? Now, every single time, I will tell you this, every time that I leave my dance class, which is twice a week, every time I leave my dance class, all sweaty, tired, but satisfied, I am so incredibly thrilled, honored, and super grateful that I have the capacity to breathe in deep and move through the dance numbers over and over and over and over and leave exhausted and sweaty, but feeling so good. It is such a gift. It is the greatest gift to me every week. Every week I feel it. Every time on my way home, you can ask my husband, I come home with this giant smile on my face because I recognize the gift that that is for me. And that is such a blessing now, which was in disguise before. So that's but one example. But when we start to see these different juncture points in our lives that are either, like I said, slowing us down, rerouting us, completely obliterating something to start again, we can really start to use those pieces as these great foundation pieces, these great central blocks of who we are as we build ourselves up. And when we really dive into those experiences too, we get to really know what we're about and know where we stand, and then choose to live the life that we want to live. Because again, remember, choice is everything. Choice of our perspective, choice of what we do because of the things around us, choice of what we wish to create in our world. Choice is literally our greatest gift. And so the universe will help reinforce that ability to choose and how to know how to choose better by the blessings in disguise that happen. So consider it like the Hanged Man card. So if ever you guys have seen the Hanged Man card in tarot, there's a man, it's usually a man who is hung up by a foot by vines, and he's hung upside down with no other option but just to hang there for a minute. That Hanged Man is kind of like that blessing in disguise, a way to see something from a different perspective. Whether the Hanged Man comes because of the crumbling, whether it comes from rerouting, whatever it may be, he gets flipped over another way, upside down, to see the same situation from a different perspective. And that's essentially what they're talking about. So the guidance and the insight from them is, when you come through these moments of, or you're sitting in a moment, a certain circumstance where you're just like, what is going on? What on earth is this possibly doing? Consider that the light really is on your side. And that's something they have been reinforcing so much through the fall and continue to this winter. The light is on our side. And when I say the light, I mean the higher frequencies, our guides, those that work for the ascension of humanity, those that want us to grow and ascend. They are on our side. So they are helping us move through things in the best way that they can turn them into blessings. But in order for us to see that, we have to co-create with them. So we have to be like that Hanged Man and flip upside down and see if we can see the experience from a different perspective and maybe get a sense of what we're learning from it. There's so much value in that. And when we do that, the universe can then continue to co-create with us over and over and over. And we actually start to be able to move through things with a lot more ease and grace. And we don't always have to be flipped upside down. We can actually, the more we get used to looking for those different perspectives, we can move through those experiences and be like, oh, hey, you know what? I think it's probably something to do with this, or it's something to do with this, or I'm not, or maybe it's like, I'm not sure what it is, but I can feel something brewing there. So I'm just going to surrender, and I'm going to have patience in this waiting. I'm going to play more right now and let it come into play. Right. Or again, if it's that veering off track, it's like, okay, something keeps pushing me, in this other direction. I'm going to go take a look and see what it's about. I'm just going to go explore. I'm going to have a willingness to look at it and see. Right. We move through with more ease and grace when we're more willing to see those different perspectives being given to us or brought to us. And that's essentially how the universe works. So that's something to consider as we are moving into this 2022 year of embodiment, because the more you know yourself, the more you have the ability to co-create the world you are living in by your perspective. Again, it doesn't mean everything's going to be rainbows and butterflies, but your perspective and how you choose to move through it really is what gives you the power to move through in ease and grace, or to move through with chaos. That one is up to you. So consider the things in your life right now that don't quite make sense as a blessing in disguise, and not prejudge the current set of circumstances. Something from the guides there for you anyways. All right, well, that's everything I have for you guys this week. So thank you so much as always for joining me and tuning in. I truly appreciate you. If you are looking to really dive in and expand your consciousness, you guys do check out avalonspirit.com. We have so many beautiful offerings. We have different evenings, cosmic consciousness. If you're wanting to dive into some deep, high consciousness, that's a great opportunity, as well as the different personal journey guides from shamanic healing to past life regressions, Akashic records, higher self, intuitive readings, astrology readings, birth charts, animal healing. Like, there's so many beautiful offerings on there. So if you're looking for something, do check that out as well. And also, if you guys haven't already, do check out Avalon Spirit YouTube page, where we have Spirit Coffee Talk, where myself and Lisa Richmond and Elise Cathry, the mediums, have Avalon Spirit, we get together once a week and we chat about the stuff going on. And so there'll be lots come down the pipe through those ladies as well. So check that one out too. And that is all I got for you. So I wish you guys a beautiful week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next week.